David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have 3 pens to show you from a brand which was new to me called Scriveiner. This is a brand which, while they do have their own website, you can find these pens sold widely in the retail chain Office Depot as well as on Amazon. Now, with Office Depot, I'm not sure whether that is online only or if you can find them in brick and mortar locations as well. Now, historically, I have not had the greatest experience with brands which rely heavily on these sales channels, but will I feel differently about this brand? What I am going to do today is go over the parts and features of these pocket pens, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about them. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Scriveiner for providing these pens for review. The company is based out of the UK. I believe they do their manufacturing overseas. And in 2023, they earned a King's Award, previously known as the Queen's Award for enterprise companies. This is an award presented yearly to recognize outstanding achievement by UK-based businesses in a number of categories. And here are the 3 pens. The company calls these their EDC Fountain Pens. We have what they named as the Classic Silver Chrome, the Stunning Heavy Brass, and then the Stunning Matte Black. Since we have 3 pens to look at, I think the best thing to do would be to have you join me over here at camera 2. So here we have the 3 Scriveiner pens. We have the Classic Silver, and then we have the Stunning Black. That's the actual name of the pen. And you know what? I mentioned earlier that this one was brass. It's actually copper. Obviously, it has more of a copper color. And so, let's take a look at just this copper one, and I'll show you kind of the parts and features, and then we'll show you what some of the variations on the other ones are. So to begin with, here at the very end, it does have the company logo in that S. We have a very nice clip. I do like it's very solid as far as it's thick enough. It does have a bit of bend to it, so it fits in fabrics of all sizes. I do like the engraving that's on there. I just think that that's a little bit different and sharp. The barrel, for the most part, is straight. Here at the end of the barrel, we have the company name as well, or the logo, as well as the company name, Scriveiner. It angles down just slightly, and there's a small step down to the barrel, which is straight. This one has kind of that brushed copper look to it, which I actually enjoy. I think that that's a nice, sharp look to this pen. And then here at the end, we have some posting threads and the end of the pen, and then there is a slight beveled edge, and the end of the pen is straight or flat. The cap twists off. How many rotations? We got 1, just a little bit over 1 rotation. And underneath we have a number 4 Schmidt nib. This is just a standard Schmidt nib with the standard Schmidt plastic feed. This section is just slightly concave. It is on the narrow side. It's a little bit narrower than I personally would prefer, just because I find myself having to pinch a bit much with that. I don't find that these metal threads are sharp in any way, so even if your grip should rest on them, I don't feel that that should be an issue. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. It does have a decent weight to it for a pocket pen. The threads on the back are rather narrow as well. So if you should want to cap it or post it, it doesn't take much effort in order to do so. And it posts deeply enough that I still feel that it maintains a decent weight and balance. And so it doesn't throw off the balance or back weight the pen at all. This is a cartridge converter pen. It includes a standard international converter as well as a couple of cartridges. With all of the metal in this as well as the other pens, eyedropping would not be recommended. Now, let's take a look at some of the other ones and what varies. So with the classic silver, you can see here that it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, and it does have that gold end, or the gold trim on here. And so it does have a bit of that classic look to it. It is very slick on the outside. One thing I do care for, I do think that going with the gold colored nib on this particular model was a good choice. And then it has the knurling here on the section. Even with that knurling, I do find this section to be a little bit on the slick side. It would have been extraordinarily slick if they wouldn't have had the knurling on here. So I feel that knurling helps a little bit, but I wish maybe the knurling was a little bit more pronounced, and so that it could give you a bit of a better grip on there. But again, this one is a cartridge converter pen as well. And then finally, we have the classic black. This one is made from metal as well and has the black finish. I actually like the looks of this one with the silver colored trim. This one again has the black section as well as the Schmidt nib. As you can see, it is inked up. And this one posts nicely as well. So they're a decent size for a pocket pen. In regard to some size comparisons, so let me go ahead and show you some other things. Here it is with a Sailor Pro Gear. This is the Blue Cobra, available through Gold Spot Pens. They still have some of these available. It's actually one of my favorite Pro Gears that I have. And so if you're into Pro Gears, I'd strongly suggest taking a look at Gold Spot to check those out. And then here it is with a Kaweco Skyline Sport, and this was the pearlescent or pearl model, which I think looked really nice. This pearlescent material just looked really cool. And then here it is with a TWSBI Vac Mini. And in regard to a couple of other smaller pens, here it is with a Enso Italia. And then that one's an Ultim, and then another Ultim pen. This is the Shown Design Ultim. And finally, we have a pen from Shibui North, which is the Kitsune. And this is the one I showed previously that has the happy little skulls on there. And I just think that looks really sharp. And that's what it looks like in comparison to the Scriveners. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Sailor Pro Gear and the TWSBI Vac Mini, as well as the Kaweco Skyline Sport. Okay, I actually have two of these pens inked up. The copper one here in medium, and then the black one is a fine. And there's something very interesting about the ink that I'm using in this copper version. So to begin with, we have the Scriveiner. And this one is in the copper. I almost wrote brass again, and this is a medium nib. Now, in regard to this ink, I chose one of my favorite inks that I pulled out of my drawers, which is this Mandarin Orange ink from Monteverde. And as you see, that ink right there is not very orange, which basically means that this ink has gone bad. Typically, this is what that orange looks like in regard to some other comparisons. It is with Papier Plume's House of the Rising Sun. And then this is Robert Oster Rust Orange. It's just usually really a nice kind of red orange. But when I started writing with it, I thought that it looked different, and I did another sample, and that's what the ink looks like now. It went bad on me. I don't keep it in the sun. It's in the shade. It's temperature controlled. Not quite sure why that ink went bad and at what time it did, but I just thought that was odd that all of a sudden the ink went bad on me. So not quite sure what happened there, but I thought that was interesting that it ended up changing colors from that orange to the yellow on me. So we'll go ahead and do the writing sample with the rest of this kind of orangish yellow. And so here we have, for ink, we have the Monteverde. mandarin orange. We'll put quotes around there. Kind of a mandarin orange. And in regard to the writing sample, I find this medium to be pleasant. I've always enjoyed Schmidt nibs. I think Schmidt nibs are a bit underrated. They typically perform well for the medium nibs that I generally choose. You don't get a lot of line variation in here. The ink flow is decent on here. In regard to reverse writing, I'd say it's a little sharp. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up well. So let's take a look at the fine nib that is on this black model here. And we'll just start writing again. The ink I'm using here is one that I think is a little bit underrated, which is a Levenger. Let's see, EN. Pomegranate. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a nice deep purplish red. Kind of looks somewhat similar to Diamine Oxblood. And then there's Private Reserve's Vampire Red, which is kind of in the same family. This is what those bottles look like. I think they're an interesting shape. And the Levenger inks that I've tried out have been nice. Now, in regard to this fine nib, I am not a big fan of fine nibs. I like them when they're smooth, but when they bite a little bit, it's just not my favorite. There's a difference between feedback and bitingness. And this particular fine nib, I find bites a little bit too much. I did take a look at it under a loop just to make sure that there wasn't anything wrong with it. It looked perfect, but it's just a little bit sharp for me in regard to reverse writing. It gets the job done. In regard to fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine, but like I said, I just kind of feel it. Well, that's paper that actually got into the nib. That's why right there. But it's just a little bit on the scratchy side. And it is a little bit more scratchy going left to right, which I thought there might be something wrong with the nib, but I looked at it and it physically looks perfect. But it's just a little bit on the sharp side. So here we have these Scriveiner EDC pens. Now, the price can vary depending on where you take a look at these. I even saw it vary a little bit across Amazon, but these retail for right around $50. Which I actually feel is a reasonable price for these pens. I was impressed a little bit and slightly surprised at the quality of these pens for that price range. Sometimes, like I had mentioned before, for some of the pens that are marketed in the manner that this one is, the quality hasn't quite been there. Other than the fine nib being a little bit scratchy, the medium nib was great. I like the fact that they're using Schmidt nibs on here. The build quality is really nice. I kind of like this brushed copper one. I thought that it performs nicely. It has a nice weight to it and looks nice as well. So if you're looking for a reasonably priced pocket pen in that $50 range, the Scriveiner is one that is actually something that you could potentially check out. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.